Okay, so you're very welcome back to this segment for this week's topic, which is on I Belong Here. And we're back talking to ChatGPT. And yeah, we're going to be talking all about the topic of belonging and how to foster a sense of belonging. And I just want to welcome ChatGPT, and I've got a bit of an improved setup this week, hopefully with the video and the sound. So hopefully things will go a bit smoother. And thank you for your help last week with how to set healthy boundaries because I feel like I did that a little bit and I've had some positive results. So thank you for your help on the last topic.
You're very welcome. I'm glad to hear that the discussion on boundaries helped and that you had some success putting them into practice. Boundaries and belonging actually go hand in hand. When you know where you stand, it's easier to feel like you truly fit in. Excited to dive into this week's topic with you.
Thank you. That sounds brilliant. So, yeah, I suppose for me, I struggled with having a sense of belonging for most of my life. And since the last couple of years, since getting into recovery and really sort of finding out more about my neurodivergence, I've become a member of a lot of different groups and communities. I'm a member of 12-step groups and I've met lots of amazing people through that. And also I'm now part of a lot of autism groups, ADHD groups, just lots of groups. And I feel like, I definitely feel when I'm attending events or I'm speaking to people, I have that sense that like I belong, but I feel like sometimes I'm only part of myself belongs. And I struggle to like fully feel like my whole self belongs there, or I wear a mask. So it's like I'm a filtered version of myself for that particular scenario. And so, yeah, do you have any thoughts on that or like any suggestions about how to be my whole self, and feel like I belong in whatever this situation is?
That makes so much sense. It's like you've found spaces where you belong, but you're still figuring out how to bring all of yourself into them. That's really common, especially for people who've spent a long time masking or adapting to fit into different groups. One thing that might help is shifting the perspective from belonging somewhere to belonging to yourself first. If you walk into a room knowing, I belong to me no matter what, then you can decide how much of yourself you want to share, not out of fear, but out of choice. Also, it might not be about being the same version of yourself everywhere, but being an authentic version of yourself in each space. Different situations bring out different aspects of us, and that's natural. It doesn't mean you're not your whole self, it just means you're adaptable. Does that idea resonate with you?
Yeah, it does. And I suppose my experience in the past was like if I am putting on my my work hat or my work mask or whatever, I would become like a very robotic, monot, a very like stereotypical, like you wouldn't see all this colorful stuff in the background. I'd be very like wearing a shirt and a pants and it'd be very straight-laced because that's kind of what I thought was required. And so I never fully, and I had shut down the rest of me for so many years that like, I couldn't feel like I belonged anywhere because I didn't even belong in my own skin. I was so shut down and sort of disconnected that, how could I feel like I belonged anywhere when I didn't even belong in my own skin?
Exactly. If you don't feel like you belong to yourself, it's almost impossible to feel like you belong anywhere else. It sounds like for a long time you were fitting into roles rather than showing up as yourself. And when you're constantly filtering out parts of who you are, it makes sense that belonging would feel out of reach. Now that you're reconnecting with your full self, maybe the key is practicing bringing more of you into each space, little by little, in ways that feel safe. Like, maybe it's letting some of that color and creativity show up even in more structured settings. Or noticing when you're slipping into that robotic mode and giving yourself permission to soften, to be more you. Do you feel like you're starting to bridge that gap between who you thought you had to be and who you really are?
Yeah, I think, the gap is definitely getting smaller, and I'm somewhere on that bridge to like connection and that sense of belonging. And yeah, I suppose that something I heard somebody talk about this week as well was like, um, you wouldn't go on a first date and say certain things, like, I don't know, I'm nearly 8 years single, so I don't even, I think I could probably go on the undateables. I wouldn't even have any idea of what's an appropriate topic to go on a date or not. And so I can still show up as my true self. And, I don't have to bring my CV, or I don't have to bring all my medical issues. I can just show up as myself. But like, if I'm in a restaurant, or if I'm going sea dipping, or if I, make sure I bring a dry robe or some swimming togs, or like, or, and like the right sort of attitude of like, yeah, we're doing the, so I suppose I can still show up as myself, but it's like, I don't have to, I can still like filter out what I'm saying so it's appropriate for the situation, I suppose.
That's exactly it. Being your true self doesn't mean oversharing or putting everything out there all at once. It just means bringing the version of you that fits naturally into the moment. Like, you wouldn't show up to a sea dip in a three-piece suit, just like you wouldn't show up to a job interview in a dry robe. But in both spaces, you're still you, just adapting to what's needed. And that dating example is a great one. You don't have to bring your whole life story to the first conversation, but that doesn't mean you're being fake. It just means you're pacing yourself. Maybe belonging is less about proving who you are and more about allowing yourself to be. Do you feel like that shift in thinking gives you more freedom to be yourself without the pressure of having to explain everything?
I think so. I mean, I'm gonna have to practice it because for so long I've been like, me, pour me, pour me another drink, like, oh, me. So, I'm still like that sometimes, but like sometimes maybe I can be like, what about me and you? Like, I'm having a conversation now with you that hopefully it's not just all about me. I'm actually like, kind of speaking to you and trying to like pause and listen to you. You're actually helping me kind of figure out how to have a conversation in some ways as well.
Sorry, I'm having issues right now. Could not understand what you said.
Sorry, I'm having issues too. Yeah, so have you any like tips that I could try this week to help me foster that sense of I belong and make it more about me and you instead of just me?
Yeah, definitely. Here are a few things you could try this week to help foster that sense of belonging and shift the focus from just you to you and the people around you. 1. Inner reminder. Before you enter a space, say to yourself, I belong here. Not because of what you do or say, but just because you're human and present. Try it when you meet Patrick, at a meeting, or even just walking into a coffee shop. 2. Focus on we moments instead of me moments. Ask open ended questions. Notice small details about others and engage with curiosity, like, how did you get into this? What do you love about it? 3. Shared experiences. Lean into the idea that belonging isn't about explaining yourself, but experiencing something with others. Whether it's a sea dip, a meeting, or just a casual chat, try to fully be in the moment rather than thinking about how you fit in. 4. Body awareness. If you start feeling disconnected, check in with your body. Are you tensing up, holding your breath? Try grounding techniques like feeling your feet on the floor or focusing on your breath to help stay present. 5. Small acts of generosity. Sometimes feeling like you belong comes from making others feel like they belong. A small compliment, a shared laugh, or just really listening to someone can reinforce that sense of, we're in this together. Do any of these sound like they'd be helpful to try?
Yes, they do, but you're giving away all my secrets. You're telling everybody that I'm meeting a member for coffee tomorrow, so I guess there's a lot of Patricks in Ireland, so nobody will know who it is. So hopefully that should be okay. But yeah, maybe I could just say, "Hey, how are you? Would you like a coffee?" You know?
Haha, fair point. Patrick is a pretty common name, so your secret is safe. And yeah, keeping it simple, hey, how are you? Would you like a coffee? Is a perfect way to ground yourself in connection instead of overthinking how you fit in. Sometimes, the easiest way to feel like you belong is just to focus on making the other person feel comfortable. That shifts the energy from, do I fit in here? So let's just share this moment together. You've got this. And worst case, if it feels a bit awkward, you can just laugh it off and move on. It's all part of the experiment, right?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I think that sounds doable, and maybe just to try and whatever situation it is, just kind of carry that sense of I belong here, even if it's sharing on social media, talking to you, blogging more stories, experimenting with this podcast and sharing these videos on YouTube. All of this it's stuff that I find really interesting, but it's like a big experiment, and I don't really know what I'm doing. I'm making it up as I go along, but I feel like this is me. It's stuff that I'm really interested in, and I feel like I belong here right now, having this conversation with you. So thank you.
That's exactly it. Belonging isn't about having all the answers, it's about showing up, being curious, and letting yourself be in the moment. And honestly, the fact that you're experimenting, sharing, and figuring it out as you go, that's what makes it real. You do belong here in this conversation, in your podcast, in every space you choose to step into. The more you lean into what excites you, the more natural that feeling of belonging will become. And hey, if it's all an experiment, then there's no way to fail, only ways to learn and grow. So keep going, keep sharing, and keep being you. This is exactly where you're meant to be.
Thank you so much. Thanks for your help, and I will speak to you again soon.
You're so welcome. This was a great conversation, and I can't wait to see how your experiment with belonging unfolds. Keep being you, and I'll be here whenever you want to chat again. Talk soon.